So I said earlier that CAM is not negotiable in theory. Here's a bit more color on how CAM actually can be negotiated. Reminder that CAM stands for Common Area Maintenance, CAM. It's the annual cost to operate the common elements of the building or project where your space is. Some tenants will request an itemized list of all of the costs that are included in CAM and really negotiate what cost landlord is and is not able to pass through. The theory is that the landlord is trying to pass through all kinds of costs to you, the tenant, that it really shouldn't. An example would be the maintenance of an office building's fitness center. You may technically be on the ground floor of the building, but you're not benefiting from the fitness center at all. You're probably not even allowed to use it. So you could try to go that route. Review the budget and try to remove any charges that you don't directly benefit from. This is not the path I would suggest. It takes a long time and it's usually a bit contentious. What you're saying when you do this is that you don't trust the landlord's word. Instead, I always recommend that you just manage the uncertainty around CAM and then budget appropriately. Your total rent is your rent. It doesn't really matter how the landlord spends that money as long as it's all within your budget. So you'll want to agree to a set CAM charge in year one and then cap your increases going forward. Landlords don't like to agree to a set CAM charge for the first year generally, especially if it's a new asset, but even if they want to increase the current year's budgeted CAM by say 5% to make sure they're covering their operating costs, it doesn't really matter. Again, the higher the CAM, the less base rent we can afford. And so annually, you'd have a cap of somewhere between 3 and 5% annual increases. Rather than spending a lot of energy negotiating both CAM and rent, I'm happy to accept whatever the landlord tells me CAM is, so long as I have a cap and I know I can budget around it. It's just overly complicated to be negotiating both a rent and a CAM. A lot simpler if there's just one number we're negotiating. There are people who disagree with me, but remember, we're not negotiating for sport. We're actually trying to get you this space. We want to get the absolute best deal possible, but we don't want negotiations to drag out so long that one or both parties lose focus. You'll often see two types of CAM caps, cumulative and non-cumulative. A non-cumulative CAM cap is a little simpler. If the CAM cap is 4% and it's non-cumulative, that just means that CAM can increase a maximum of 4% above the previous year's CAM charge. Let's say that in lease year 2, CAM increases 3% above the previous year. In lease year 3, CAM can only increase 4% above the year 2 CAM charge. It doesn't matter that it didn't increase all the way to the cap the previous year. With the cumulative increase, it does matter. So in that example, if CAM increases by 3% in year 2, in year 3, CAM can increase the 4% it was allowed to in the lease, so up to the cap, and it can also increase to make up for the 1% left over from the previous year. So a non-cumulative CAM cap is more beneficial to the tenant. With the cumulative cap, it's possible for CAM to increase more than that 4% that is stipulated in the cap. But as a reminder, whether cumulative or non-cumulative, it's still better to have a cap than none at all. Okay, so you've got cumulative and non-cumulative CAM caps, which are a little technical. There is a simpler way, which is just agreeing to fixed increases. CAM increases 4% no matter what. Of course, you miss out on the possibility that CAM might increase less, but it's a lot simpler from a budgeting perspective, and in my experience, CAM never increases less. It always increases all the way up to the cap.